Yes, yes, yes. Big up to everybody in the building. So PSG versus Bayern in the Champions League semi-final first leg. Tactical look at the game. There's only a few things really that I wanted to kind of go through in this game because I think there's two key players in my personal opinion who I feel are going to be quite important for either team, right? And if they get it right, I feel like that team will stand in good stead for that second leg. So obviously I've got a lineup here. I've literally just copied the lineup from FOTMob onto this here. So they've obviously got no Vitinha in the PSG team. He did have an injury. I feel like he'd be available for this game, but they have put Fabian Ruiz, who obviously has been injured for the majority of this season. Definitely a player. It's weird to say that they miss. Maybe in Liga, I think they probably missed him there more than anything else, to be honest with you, because Champions League they've done absolutely fine. But yeah, I think other than that, there wasn't really anything else. I think it's the same lineup that I believe we all kind of know PSG are going to kind of go with. If I'm being honest with you, back four speaks, or back five, should I say, speaks for itself. Joao Neves in there, Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, maybe Doué, maybe a Doué, but I feel like Barcola has been pretty decent this season, and especially in the recent matches, I would say he maybe warrants a start. But again, you've got the choice between Doué and Barcola. These are rich people problems, as I like to call it. So yeah, not really too much of an issue there. With Bayern Munich again, kind of the lineup that I thought they would kind of go with. I mean, I look at Bayern Munich's attacking. You've got Luis Diaz, Juan Musiala, Kane, Elise, all players, bar maybe Musiala, obviously coming back from an injury. These are all, fantastic players who are in great form this season. Pavlovic, Kimmich have been pretty good, this season. Obviously, I didn't put in the number five, but obviously you've got Upamecano in there next to Tar, Lima over there at left back, and then of course Stanisic in at right back. So for me, the two kind of what I say key players that I think, which is I guess what you would expect, or maybe back in the day we would expect it, are the two number nines that I've got here on the screen, and that's Kane and Dembele. I think those two are going to be so pivotal just because of the type of roles that they kind of play. When we're looking at PSG and Bayern Munich, they play quite similar. They're teams who like to have possession of the football. They're teams who can press aggressively. They're teams who can go man to man if they need to. They're teams who their centre backs will push if needs be, if they need to go and follow players. So when I'm looking at a Kane and Dembele, let's start off with Dembele first, Ballon d'Or winner. Let's start off with him when PSG do have the ball, and say let's say Pacho, has the ball here. Dembele is a player that I always feel is kind of like a free spirited individual. He is always someone who I always feel just needs to just feel the game. He'll decide himself as to whether or not he's going to go out wide, whether or not he's gonna, stay in the middle, whether he's gonna, drop in or anything like that. He always seems like a player that can kind of just go around doing his own thing, picking up the ball here, picking up the ball there. It doesn't really matter, I feel, when it comes to Dembele and his positioning. Sometimes he's out wide here, and then it kind of creates this kind of zone, which then can allow, if for example Bayern Munich are of course pushed up, then means that Barcola will be a bit more central, which then allows for him, because he's got the pace to be able to run in behind. And I think for me, if I'm looking at it, and if we're just looking at it from a PSG perspective, I do look at it and think Tar is someone who will push. Tar or Upamecano, depending on, of course, which side of the pitch the ball actually is. But one of these two players, I feel, especially when Dembele is, trying to drop deep in certain situations, they're going to need to kind of push forward. If we just move these players, let's put Harry Kane here, let's say Luis Diaz and Hakimi. Um, let's actually push this back a little bit. Uh, Lima will kind of pop in there. Diaz is going to obviously be important, obviously for Hakimi bombing forward like there's no man's business. Mendes, for some weird reason, always finds himself. I say weird reason. Mendes always does find himself in these kind of positions here. Kind of, would I say, a bit infield, so to speak. Let's say a Fabian Ruiz will be kind of close here. So you can see there isn't really anybody in that forward area, at this moment in time, would I say, for PSG at this moment in time. Now, usually what I end up seeing is, let's say here. and then Kimmich will obviously decide to do that. So you can obviously see that I've got Luis Diaz obviously operating here in that left back position. In that first game, that was something that he did quite a bit again because of Hakimi, because he's someone obviously who can bomb. Well, say can, he is someone who will bomb forward. He effectively is a right winger almost in that team. You know, he can get up and down that side of the pitch absolutely fine, but he's going to need to be very wary of a Luis Diaz, especially someone who's been in really, really fine form, you know, this season. But when I'm just looking at Dembele, again, he's in these positions here. Now, if Tar doesn't go as an example, right? Let's just say he decides he's not going to do that. You leave Dembele in these kind of areas. You don't want Dembele with the ball here. Because if Dembele, if that pass was to ever get into Dembele and they've got no one else there, what PSG are really, really good at, and something I really, really rate, is their rotations and understandings on the pitch. So players, obviously, they all know exactly what their role is, exactly what it is that they need to do. They will make that space for Dembele. They seem to do it quite a lot, and teams never seem to pick up Dembele. He's always, always free, and I never understand it. The only time he ever gets marked is when he is out there, you know, on the wings. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine because, you know, he's over there on the wings. Just naturally, the left back or the right back, left mid or left winger, left right winger will, of course, obviously pick him up. When he's in these areas here, and he's got the ball, and he's got a choice as to, do I play it into Kvaratskhelia, who might be running in there, or do I play it into a Due, who might be, you know, running into these kind of positions here? Barcola's too quick. And this is again based on the fact that if, you know, Barcola were to start the game, you don't want that. You really, really don't want that. You really don't want someone like Barcola having that kind of, or someone like Dembele having the time, the options. Of course, he can also, you know, dribble with the ball forward. We know he can shoot left foot, right foot. That's not something that you want to happen in the game whatsoever. You really don't want Dembele being the one that is picking up the ball, head up, and has options, whether it be Kvaratskhelia, Barcola, or Due, or even a Hakimi at times. Because once that starts to happen, it just creates too much of a big issue. And the problem with that Bayern will obviously have in a game like this is that where they press relatively high, and they might not do it so much so against PSG at their place, but where they press relatively high, and players like Tar and Upamecano like to just kind of jump and push, that could create big, big problems for them because that just creates space. And when you've got space, again, fast players, that's all they love. They love to see grass. Once they can see grass with nothing in front of them other than the goal, yeah, it's kind of curtain. So I'm just looking at it. And again, there's so much to really unpack in a general sense. But when I look at it, I look at Dembele and I think to myself, for PSG, he could be so key in a game like this because I feel that he's going to be one of the main players for them anyway, just in general. But also, if he is able to get on the ball, a Tar or an Upamecano, they're going to need to make sure that they're closing him down quickly enough. Once you do that, I do think then if you can close someone like Dembele down and not give him too many options to be able to pass the ball to whoever, whether it's forward or backwards, just to kind of keep things kind of going, then yeah, I think you've done your job and you know that's good enough. And then you can almost reset. If that ball does need to go backwards, for example, and for PSG, then you're always kind of, you know, good to go. So I do look at Dembele and I think he, for me, is going to be a very, very key player in a game like this, especially in a game where two managers do like to, you know, at times, would I say, go man for man, you know, within, you know, their kind of press and things like that. So that's kind of the one of the first things that I wanted to look at. The second one was obviously looking at Harry Kane. Harry Kane, exactly the same. He's going to be exactly the same, in my personal opinion, as a Usman Dembele. When you watch Harry Kane and you watch what he can do and you watch how he kind of, you know, drops into these kind of positions here, again, the same thing, if I'm being totally honest with you, the same kind of areas that Dembele was dropping it in for, would I say, for PSG, it's the same thing that Harry Kane is going to do. He's going to drop into these kind of areas here, you know, looking to pick up the ball from whoever he needs to pick up the ball from. Now, if he's going to do things like that, that's potentially could create a bit of an issue for PSG because we know that PSG do like to go man for man, you know, within their own kind of press. Now, you can go man for man, and I again clearly it works for a team like PSG. But if you're going to go man for man, you're going to need to make 100% sure that your players are really switched on. Because if someone like Harry Kane is going to drop into these kind of areas to be picking up the ball. And we know he loves to, because we know that he loves to pick up the ball, spray a pass, whether it's to, as an example, to an Elise or anything like that, or to Luis Diaz, who, let's put it, to a Luis Diaz who might be in these kind of positions. Hakimi might have already, bombed forward, looking to get himself back. If you've got someone like Kane who can find those passes into these kind of areas, it then leaves, someone like Marquinhos having to, come out there. Now you've got Pacho coming in. You've got Elise, obviously, is going to then start coming in field. On top of that, you've then got Jamal Musiala, coming there. Kane's obviously going to, make his runs, forward. Kimmich or Pavlovic, for example, are going to be obviously helping him out here. Hakimi obviously trying to get back. That ball can go from here to or to an Elise. Obviously, I know Mendes will obviously come back, but it just leaves the back line just a little bit threadbare, in my personal opinion. And I think with games like this, when I look at it, these are two teams who they think very, very quickly, which is probably why, in my opinion, I actually think we're going to see quite a few mistakes within a game like this, just purely because they think so quickly that sometimes ultimately your brain can't move as quick. Do you know what I mean? It can't move as quick as that. Sorry, you can't move as quick as your brain does. Your brain will have that thought first, but it then comes the action. Sometimes you then see that, obviously we saw in the first game, mistakes and things like that. So I think Mendes lost the ball, and I think then PSG then, I mean, Mendes lost the ball and Bayern Munich then went on to score. And I think things like that will noticeably happen in this kind of game, just because they're both teams who they can play very, very quickly when they want to. But we know when you play quick or too quick, sometimes, the opposition can obviously pip it and do certain things. So it's really just, and again, listen, there's definitely more to be said in a game like this. But for me, it's Kane and Dembele. They're the two players that I look at, and I think to myself, they're going to be so pivotal with the fact that they're two players who do like to drop deep into that attacking midfield slash sometimes even central midfield areas. They're two players who do like to put their head up and see if they can pick out a pass, see if they can dribble with the ball, see if they can bring the team higher up. So it's going to be on Pacho, Marquinhos, Tar, and Upamecano, those four players plus Dembele and Kane, I feel like those are going to be the players that we really do need to watch out for. I don't think much is going to be going on in the middle of the park. I think it'll be a bit too congested in there, and they're not going to necessarily have too much of a joy unless they're able to rotate either team within the midfield. And I think PSG are far better, in my opinion, than Bayern Munich at doing so. But if that then happens, it's then down to Bayern Munich to then make sure that they're not left so threadbare at the back, whether it's Targ's gone up, whether it's Upamecano who's obviously gone up, and they've left there with kind of just this Stanisic, Lima, and one of the centre backs. Like I said, you don't want grass against against a team like PSG, not when they've got players who can easily hurt you. So it's going to be an interesting game. I think it's going to be really, really interesting. I hope it's as thrilling as we saw with the Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid. I hope it's one of those type of games. But of course, listen, we just have to wait and see. But let me know your thoughts, people, in the chat. Who do you think is going to win the game? How do you guys see this? We'll go first leg. Don't need to tell me about the actual end result, who's going to the final, but just who do you think will win this first leg between the two teams? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I will catch you guys very